I can't believe I just hit record on this camera. It's been 4 months. 4 flipping months. I also really wish I could say it's been a smooth ride, but the truth of the matter is something really unexpected and very tragic happened in this very room, but not with this guy. Right, Tiki? Come here, buddy. Roaches are on the menu. Torch, you want one too? And here's the thing, this isn't some clickbaity scheme to try and get you to watch my video since I've been gone so long. This is genuinely an emotional story that could have changed everything for this channel, everything for my career, my livelihood, and everything for my beloved pets, the animals I'm keeping and sharing with you. Imagine waking up one day to find your passion, your hard work, has all seemingly fallen apart. That's exactly what happened to me. Reptiliatus has always been about sharing the joy and wonder of these incredible animals. But 7 months ago, that joy was put to the test. And let me tell you, it all started as a seemingly normal day, but then disaster struck. You see, my reptile room faced a pretty big challenge. It was devastating, and it honestly made me wonder if I could continue. But here's the thing, everybody. I love what I do, and I absolutely love sharing it all with you. And that's why today I'm gonna be telling you guys exactly what it is that happened and how this experience made me more committed than ever. Right, little buddy? Yeah, Spike says yes, trust me. So stick around, everybody, because this journey is far from over. We'll dive into exactly what happened and why it is that the channel is stronger than ever. Here you go, sir. Go back in. Welcome back. My name is Dayyan, and you're watching Reptiliatus. Wow, it has been a long time since I've said that. Back in early April, I was working on some animal chores, just like any other day in the reptile room. I noticed that Kira, my Mexican black king snake, was out cruising through her terrarium. The thing is that this was not normal behavior for her, especially during the day and not at feeding time. She seemed restless. As I took a closer look, I discovered that she had regurgitated her most recent meal. I was concerned right away. While snakes sometimes have issues if they get too cold while digesting, this behavior raised a red flag. Naturally, I decided to keep a close watch on her, and after a few days, I tried feeding her again, only to unfortunately find her in some sort of terrible abnormal neurological state. She was twisting and contorting her body, almost against her will. It was painful to watch, and I didn't know what to do. On one hand, it looked like she was receptive and tried to coil her food. On the other, she clearly wasn't going to be able to eat. I coaxed her into a clear bin lined with paper towel, something along the lines of an ICU, if you will. She felt weak and lethargic, and it was as if her jaw was clenched tight. I immediately contacted Dr. Brown, who advised me to get some calcium gluconate into her system. Sadly, Kira didn't live long enough to receive her medication. An investigation later revealed that it wouldn't have saved her regardless. Keeping specialty pets, reptiles, amphibians, invertebrates, has easily been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. Learning about these beautiful and diverse animals, caring for them, improving their homes is incredibly fulfilling. But as with all specialty pets, there are unique care requirements and challenges. Most of the ones we hear about are metabolic bone disease, snake bites, UVB, gut loading, so on and so forth. Yet no one really talks enough about the deadly and incurable diseases that can affect captive bred reptiles. I'll admit, I felt pretty untouchable. These things could never affect me, right? I'm Reptiliatus. Until they did, and made an example of me. My poor Kira. Due to Kira's symptoms and sudden passing, a post-mortem was absolutely imperative. Dr. Brown conducted it to determine the cause of death. This would not only help me learn if there was any care mistakes, but also clarify if a disease was present and if my other animals were at risk. Kira's passing was traumatic. I braced myself for the worst, and unfortunately my fears were confirmed. The lab tests revealed that Kira had Cryptosporidium, one of the worst diagnoses a reptile keeper can hear.
When Kira first came in, we were pretty suspicious for Crypto because they had regurgitated and not been doing well for a little while. And then when we were doing the post-mortem exam, I could feel and see that the stomach was quite thickened, and that's one of the things that we look for in Cryptosporidium infections in snakes. When we were looking at her and her general body condition, we couldn't feel much fat on her, and then when we examined the inside of her cavity, we didn't see any real fat deposits there. So she was pretty thin, not keeping weight on, just one of the things that we see with crypto infections.
Cryptosporidium, or crypto, is a protozoan parasite affecting the gastrointestinal tract. It's highly resilient and spreads through fecal to oral transmission via oocysts, which are a dormant, highly infectious stage of the parasite protected by a thick outer wall. It can survive on surfaces for months and isn't killed by bleach. While mammals with a healthy immune system are able to fight off a crypto infection, reptiles aren't so lucky. You see, they're unable to fight off the parasite, and it often leads to their eventual passing. Worse, infected reptiles become highly contagious, potentially infecting many other animals in their shared space before the disease is detected, as they sometimes won't show any symptoms for months or even years. There is no recognized cure for Cryptosporidium in reptiles. The common course of action is euthanasia to prevent spreading. There are two primary species of Cryptosporidium that account for most cases observed in captive reptiles. The first, Cryptosporidium serpentis, primarily affects snakes, causing severe health issues such as weight loss, regurgitation, loss of motor function, and ultimately, death. The second species, Cryptosporidium veronii, affects lizards and is commonly known as sticktail disease due to the significant weight loss it induces. Infected hosts experience stress to their digestive systems, leading to regurgitation and a reduced ability to absorb nutrients, which results in malnutrition and eventual starvation. Both of these reptile-specific Cryptosporidium species are highly contagious and currently incurable. So how do you even detect crypto when it's so hard to diagnose? There are several methods used to test for Cryptosporidium infections in animals. One approach is called stomach lavage. It involves force feeding the animal, usually a snake, and then coming back a few days later to essentially flush the stomach out of its contents and test that material for Cryptosporidium DNA. It's pretty invasive, pretty stressful on the animal. A less invasive method is fecal sampling, which detects Cryptosporidium DNA by identifying oocysts shed in freshly collected stool. Finally, tissue samples can be collected via dissection. This was the method used to confirm Kira's positive diagnosis. Now, as soon as Kira tested positive and I knew that I was in this mess of a situation, I have to say Dr. Alec was incredibly supportive throughout the whole process. Thank you so much, dear friend. I so appreciate you. Dr. Alec immediately reached out to the Association of Reptile and Amphibian Veterinarians, and through reaching out to the ARAV, it was recommended that we must further speciate to find out exactly which species of crypto were infecting the reptiles. This is because there are many species of Cryptosporidium, and the majority of them probably pose no threat or harm to reptiles. There are mammalian Cryptosporidium species such as Cryptosporidium parvum that could be present in feeder mice and rats, and that initial Cryptosporidium test doesn't differentiate between species of crypto. It tells you if there's any positive crypto present in that stool test. So potentially there could be harmless crypto in the stool from the mammalian prey that's passed down and is proving to be a marker for the positive result. However, the odds were not in my favor because we did have Kira show symptomatic effects of what would be a harmful Cryptosporidium species. Nonetheless, it was important to speciate. We went through with that, and unfortunately, it was found to be Cryptosporidium serpentis, which was the worst case scenario. So here I am. Panic mode is officially activated. A positive case of Cryptosporidium in my reptile room means that now I have to test all my animals. And trust me, this is terrifying. My snakes look healthy, active, alert, and they're eating well. But we all know how quickly things can change. Just ask my light snake Kira. Dr. Alec recommended testing my remaining 3 snakes, Pinocchio and Nib, my rhinoceros rat snakes, and Sylvanite, my California red-sided garter snake. And the waiting, guys, I don't know how to tell you, it honestly just feels like an eternity. You're sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting. Your pet's life is on the line. Not fun. The results came back and my heart sank. It was found that Nib and Pinocchio both tested positive for crypto. Sylvanite, on the other hand, was a negative, but I was warned that this was most likely a false negative and that she should be treated the same way given that every other snake in the home had tested positive for Cryptosporidium. I really wish I could articulate just how devastating getting these results is. You have these seemingly healthy looking animals that have now tested positive for a deadly and contagious disease, and you have to make decisions about whether they're going to continue living or not. The reality is very quick to hit you like a truck. You're just given this news and the relationship with that pet, everything changes. It's just, this animal becomes a biohazard to the rest of my pets, and I love them so much. And now I have to think about putting them down. I have to think about isolating them from the rest of my animals. They don't know what's going on. There's just so much that goes through it. It's such a tumultuous, heavy feeling. And I have to make these decisions as their pet parents. So now, given the severity of this situation, Dr. Alex strongly recommended that I not only isolate my 3 snakes from the rest of the reptile room, but also consider euthanasia as the next course of action. Frankly speaking, guys, I was pretty torn, and I know that this is the part of the video that a lot of you may not agree with me on. Some of you may know my close friend Braden. Braden used to actually help me take care of the animals here. You do water changes, clean tanks, wipe glass down, etc., you name it. You could say that through the participation in their care, he helped raise those 3 snakes. Well, Braden approached me and said, listen man, I don't want to see these animals get put down either. So if you'll allow me to, I would like to take them on and be the individual who's responsible for their well-being and offering them a second chance at life. I want to be clear that I did not take this offer lightly. I knew what sort of responsibility I was putting in Braden's hands. He shouldn't be getting other reptiles because they would be posing a risk to those potential animals. He, would have to be keeping a close eye on these critters till they either pass away or don't. Because at the end of the day, there is the possibility that Sylvanite, Nib, and Pinocchio will actually never get sick despite having Cryptosporidium. There are cases where crypto-positive snakes never get sick their whole life. However, they'll always be contagious, which is the risk, which is why I can't keep them here in my home with all these other animals and risk that they could contract the disease. After reflecting deeply on this proposition and outlining some stipulations that if the animals would get sick or if he would choose to rehome them, they would have to be put down for the sake of protecting the industry and the hobby at large and not potentially risking other animals getting sick, I agreed to his offer. And honestly, I'm happy to say I did because the animals are doing great. So far, so good. They've grown. He's offered them larger homes to live in. The rat snakes are in a tall enclosure. They're actually being housed communally and doing well that way. Sylvanite is in a cool bioactive build with a water feature. I couldn't ask for a better outcome in that regard. And I'm thankful that, again, they get to live. I understand some of you may say, no, they should have been put down. It's not worth the risk, yada, yada, yada. But I trust Braden. And as much as now that's his responsibility and I can't take ownership of it anymore, I know he's doing things right. Then comes the next part. I had to test the rest of the animals, and that was crazy stuff. I have so many lizards, and a lot of close friends and colleagues told me not to do it. I understand where they're coming from because they know how stressful it would be if we found something, but that's just so morally skewed. Like, you have to check, especially if you're someone like me that oftentimes rehomes and sells animals. I produce animals. I have captive breeding projects, Project Mini Dragons, Project Sand Geckos. I can't in good conscience ignore that this happened and sell animals. I know that people meant well by those recommendations, and I know that by choosing to do what I feel is right, I was putting an immense financial burden on myself. Full disclosure, guys, that initial Cryptosporidium test is $103, and the further speciation is $200 Canadian, which means that I'm spending $300 Canadian per test to confirm that an animal doesn't have Cryptosporidium and that it isn't a reptile specific species. That was an insane financial burden for me. And it goes without saying, I'm so appreciative of each and every one of you who has continued to watch my content during this time that I've been away, because it is passive income and it has helped me be able to financially afford these tests that I've been having to do the last few months. And also a sincere thanks to my patrons over on the Patreon platform. You guys have kept me going in ways you don't know, because I really couldn't be where I'm right now without your support, and I'm so appreciative. I wouldn't have been able to do half the testing I've done if it wasn't for your financial support. So thank you so much, guys. You truly did help me get to the other side. So where are we at now? Well, I can confidently say that by some miracle, not a single lizard species in my home speciated for Cryptosporidium serpentis or Cryptosporidium veronii. No speciation came back positive for any of those illnesses. I also took further measures and didn't offer any captive bred offspring to anyone for the last 8 months, just to see if there were any symptomatic occurrences throughout the reptile room indicating that perhaps the lizards do have crypto and it just didn't test properly through the fecal sample testing. And so the reality is, considering I had crypto crawl into my home, I think I got off pretty easy, guys. It could have been so much worse. Obviously, I lost Kira. I'm now wondering if Inferno may have actually died of crypto and not from suffocating on large prey. It really checks out if you ask me. And I had to rehome 3 wonderful snakes that I care dearly about, but I'm so grateful that a good friend has them and that they get to live out the rest of their lives, hopefully as healthily as possible. And yeah, that's the end of it for now. I think we're out of the woods. I want to put this all behind me. I want to move on. I really do. So here's the thing. I mean, 8 months of monitoring, testing, quarantining, loss, not rehoming pets to new homes as far as offspring goes has honestly taken a mental and emotional toll. How do I say it? Like, that's it. It's been bad. It's been pretty exhausting, you know? You're dealing with an infectious disease in your home that can affect all your reptiles. You feel that, you know, your animal's health is on the line. You feel like all your beloved pets could potentially need to be put down. There's this level of uncertainty, and it's all intertwined in my career and livelihood. You know, I'm a content creator, and I tell stories and share experiences on how I keep my pets. And I feel like I can't do any of that while I'm figuring out what the heck is going on here with this disease. It was truly so heavy to bear. I'm not gonna give you guys a Project Mini Dragons update when, for all I know, all of them have to be put down. I'm not gonna tell you guys how the sand geckos are doing or do an update on pairing them up if I might find out that one of them is crypto positive and the other one isn't. So you have to understand why I decided to take a step back until I had this whole chaotic thing figured out. I hope it makes sense. And again, I can't stress enough how much your support over the last few months has meant to me, because by taking a step back, I wasn't creating streams of income for myself. And that was very difficult. It's crazy, you know. It's one thing to have a few pets that get crypto and you deal with it accordingly. You don't have to do anything public about it. It's another thing when you're a content creator who makes content about keeping pets, and then you're in this weird position where you choose to share or not. And some of you might ask me, why are you making a video about this? Why are you sharing this? Well, I want my misfortune I want my negative experience to hopefully save you all, or as many of you as possible, from ever having the same thing happen. If there's one thing I've learned from this experience, it's the utmost importance of quarantine. The way I do things around here is very different compared to how it used to be. Take a look. So as previously discussed, the parasite is spread through fecal to oral transmission via the oocysts. In this state, Cryptosporidium is extremely resilient. It can survive on surfaces for up to 8 months and still infect a host. And as previously mentioned, Crypto cannot be killed with bleach. It is capable of withstanding extreme dry or humid parameters. All it needs is to come into contact with tools or equipment, find its way into a water or food source, and reach the face or mouth of the animal to infect a whole new host. Once inside the digestive system, the parasite begins reproducing and causing harm. The most effective way of sanitizing anything that may have come into contact with Crypto is either concentrated hydrogen peroxide or extreme heat. I run a tight ship in my home. Any new animals that'll be coming into the house will be quarantined in a separate room away from the reptile room. All new animals will be tested for Crypto and other parasites and must pass a clean bill of health before moving into the main room. I now use specific feeding tongs color-coded for specific groupings of animals. Between each use, the tongs are sprayed down with 12% hydrogen peroxide to further ensure proper sanitization. All water and food dishes are soaked in hydrogen peroxide water mixture before being scrubbed with hot soapy water, and cleaning sponges are also disinfected with hydrogen peroxide between washes and replaced regularly. Please take extra steps to protect your pets. If you bring a new reptile home from a reptile show, don't just set it up in your main reptile room with your healthy animals. I promise you, it's not worth the risk. And so with that being said, friends, I want to say thank you so much for your support over the last 6 months, 5 months, 5 months. It's kind of insane. I'm hopeful that you'll learn something from this. I don't want you to ever deal with the same experience I've had. Now that I'm out of the woods, I'm excited for what's next. And remember, again, I encourage you all to quarantine your pets, invest in Cryptosporidium testing. You're not gonna regret it. I can't wait to see you guys next week for something a lot more cheerful and fun. It's good to be back. Bye, guys.